Pick 9. Okay. Okay.
3 cheers to Blake Wally for creating that introduction. Thank you, Blake.
You're welcome. Good times. Happy Valentine's.
Yes, happy Valentine's to everybody out there. Thank you for joining us. My name's Brian Engelman. Down there is Blake Wally. Over here is Stephanie Jackson. And this is the Agree to Disagree show on the TNAM network because the news always matters. New American Media is back making content again. Thanks or unthanks to Blake Wally for encouraging/discouraging me to do so. So thank you. Valentine's Day, Blake. I appreciate you, and I'm sending you a heart-shaped box, as Kurt Cobain would have done, to say thank you, unthank you for dragging me back into this again. I thought I was out, and you pulled me back in.
Right? I tried talking you out of it. I was like, is this worth the effort anymore? Is it a lost cause? I don't know. But Heart Shaped Box was my very first CD. Little fun fact.
Oh, in utero. In utero, or you got the single? You had the CD single.
No, it was the full CD in utero, but yeah, that was I got that for Christmas. It was I got a nice little Iowa stereo with a CD.
Nice.
Yeah, there it was, Nirvana.
Bringing back memories. well, thanks for that intro was great. I love it. It's my new favorite thing. You also brought another thing to the table today with the program. You brought in Stephanie Jackson. Stephanie is what? Stephanie, you were a listener to what? You found Blake through Mike's show, or how did you connect with Blake? Because this is a new thing. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Big fan of the show, guys. So I'm a fan of Mike Bear's one of my friends, so I was a big fan of that. Saw Blake on, then I came across your guys' show. Love what you guys are doing, and I'm like, I can't just be a person commenting. I have to be involved now.
Nice.
So happy to be here.
Well, yes, welcome to Jane Meyer also in the studio. Anybody jumping in on the live stream, just go ahead and leave your comments. And we'll talk about all the things going on in the world. I think what we'll do is we'll just jump in. I had one additional topic that I threw in the middle, but it makes sense. It's timely, kind of recapping where we're at, starting the week off. I know it's Tuesday, but getting our bearings. We'll jump right to the first thing to agree to disagree about, shall we?
Cool.
All right.
By the way, I got a couple of stingers, a couple of extra like Valentine themed ones too. So
you do? All right. Well, then let's make sure for the next transition you do the stinger. Okay.
All righty.
All right, we'll do that. So, agree or disagree? The Super Bowl was excellent all around. I mean, we're talking from the game to the commercials to the pomp and circumstance to the flyover to the Black National Anthem, which is apparently something that they're doing now, and to the end of the game and that penalty to Rihanna and she's pregnant or what's going on. Let's let our guests start off. Stephanie, did you watch the Super Bowl? Did you participate? What were your thoughts?
I did participate in the Super Bowl. I wanted to watch it because this one sidekick I follow named Starhill said the Eagles were going to win. And I was almost going to do a bet on the Eagles, but something told me if a psychic says the Eagles are going to win, probably do the complete opposite. So I then put some money on the Chiefs, cashed out, won $20. Was very happy about that, but it was pretty cool. I thought the halftime performance was neat. I liked how she didn't have no guests. And then the game was very like clean, like very like just a perfect game. There was nothing crazy, whatever. And it was nice not to see all this FTX like commercial bullshit. I mean, last year it was nothing but FTX, and now it's like, well, it's it just shows you what money could buy, $7 million per slot. But yeah, it was fun. Enjoyed some food with my mom. So, but glad I made $20.
Yeah, and I had somebody. I wish I could remember who to attribute this to, but I watched them and they said they have a God. Who the hell was it? Because I don't like taking someone else's comment and passing it off as my own, but I consume so many things on a daily basis. I just don't remember where I'm getting ideas from. But somebody said when they make wagers on the Super Bowl, they always pick the mascot that would win. So who would win in an actual fight, a chieftain or an eagle? And they said, I think a chieftain, and you say eagles can be
Yeah.
big and they can have claws and there can be maybe it was Scott Adams actually, and it was
Oh yeah.
he said no, I think the chieftain would also have some sort of tool or weapon on him, so I think the chief would beat an eagle in a fight. So I think the chief's, he goes, and I'm undefeated in that. So it's like, who would win, a patriot versus a falcon, that type of thing. So I found that to be funny, at least.
Well,
Blake, what about you? Did you watch the game? Did you enjoy yourself? Did you have any thoughts on Rihanna, her baby bump, any satanic imagery at halftime, any that phantom flag at the end of the game to make it completely anticlimactic, in my opinion? What say you, sir?
well, I think I was cooking or something during the halftime show, so I could hear it, but I did want to watch it because usually they're like really super satanic. I thought it was going to be you're going to try to one up Sam Smith from the Grammys, but I guess it wasn't that bad this year as opposed to normally. Didn't pay a lot of attention to the details, did catch most of the commercials, almost all of the game, and of course was disappointed at the very end as with the flag. I didn't think it was a play that should have been called. Obviously had a big effect on the game overall. A lot of people were disappointed, especially the Philly fans. I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't want to see a call like that. It didn't seem like a catchable ball either way, so I thought it was kind of spoiled the ending of what could have been a great game. And although I don't really like the Eagles, I would have liked to see them get one more drive. Let Kansas City kick their field goal. Philly get one more chance. Maybe it goes into overtime. Maybe they fall short. Maybe they get a crazy touchdown. I feel like we didn't get to see what could have ultimately happened. So,
yeah, I agree. I don't think that the actions of the Eagles defender really took Juju Smith-Schuster off of the route of his play in any significant way. There was some contact, but it didn't twist his hip. It didn't drag him back. It didn't clip his ankles. I mean, when you're making a call like that in the most important time under 2 minutes to go, when you're driving for a potential touchdown to win a Super Bowl, you got to let the players play. And this goes back, just to refresh the memory of the non-Cleveland Browns fan out there. 2 years ago, the Cleveland Browns played the Kansas City Chiefs, and there was a dirty helmet-to-helmet collision on the wide receiver Rashard Higgins for the Cleveland Browns. And instead of getting the touchdown at the half-yard line, the ball popped out after that helmet-to-helmet, leading with the crown of the helmet, and the ball went through the end zone for a touchback. So instead of 7, it took 7 off the board, and they got an extra drive out of it, and they only won it by a couple of points. Like, that would have been the difference in the game. So, I'm getting really tired of seeing the Chiefs and their golden boy, Patrick Mahomes, getting favorable calls. This is a pattern. This isn't just a one-off, and I'm not a fan of it. So in that regard, I'll say that about that. As far as, Jalen Hurts, he played a hell of a game, except that one fumble. That one fumble got picked up and ran in for a touchdown. Can't do that, but man, the dude looked unstoppable. So yeah, I'm disappointed. Michael Campbell here, he's in the chat room, and he's saying he's a diehard Eagles fan. He said the game was great, although he's still depressed they lost. Sorry about that. We're going to try to lift your spirits a little bit with all sorts of conspiracies and world drama happening. But no, he's also saying the Eagles defensive coordinator is the reason that they lost. He decided to play not to lose and went with a passive zone defense, which wasn't how we usually played. Yeah, and that is the tendency. I remember John Cooper with the Buckeyes back in the 90s. He played not to lose. He got scared in the big games. But then you got Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. They played to win. You stay aggressive. You keep your foot on the gas. You don't back up and go, all right, we have a lead. Let's take it easy. No, you got to stay aggressive. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a tale of two halves. The Eagles quasi-dominated the first half. And they let them right back in because they changed their style and their scheme. You're right about that. So hey, yeah, I was
Yeah, I
less
know. I say I watched the Vikings all year, and that was their base defense was passive zone.
Yeah, that prevent. They say because Marty Schottenheimer with Bernie Kosar in the playoffs, his thing was he'll play the prevent defense, and we just said no, that prevents you from winning. The prevent defense prevents you from winning. But they think it's smart, like, oh, we got to be careful. Well, it's in being careful that allows the enemy back into the game. So, yeah, I don't know. I wish it wouldn't have ended in a flag. I did not like that. I don't think any of the commercials did. Any commercials stand out to you, Stephanie? None of them really like made me jump out of my seat and go, that was awesome. Like not a single one that I recall.
I would say the only one, which, I'm such a film nut, so I look up the commercials before they're getting viewed, but I would say is the chip commercial of the Breaking Bad. That was pretty cool because I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan, and that was pretty cool where they had like Tuco and he's there getting the chips and he's like tight, like. And the only reason they did it because the writers were a big fan of Breaking Bad. So that was probably the only commercial I thought was worthy of watching.
And I'll admit, I think I might have missed that one. Blake, any jump out to you?
Yeah, that one did jump out, and then I think there was a Will Ferrell one that was pretty good. But I mean, overall, it was probably one of the weakest Super Bowls as far as commercials. Usually,
Definitely.
there's 3 or 4 really good ones that I can rewatch, but I missed some of them. It didn't seem like anybody was really hyping them up like in years past. There's usually a few that really stand out that might win awards or something like that. So, disappointing group this year.
Yeah, I heard somebody else.
Good game.
I heard somebody else say the Will Ferrell one might have won the day as well. So, yeah, I mean, what was that for an electrical vehicle or something? Like, what the hell is that?
It was for, it was the electric Cadillac car, and I think it was Cadillac.
Yeah, so the number one rule in advertising is that we have to know the product. We have to be able to identify the product, and if we know the product and we affiliate it with the commercial, then it's a win. And we're going, I think it was, so they mostly got close as long as that was accurate.
We're all watching football, drinking beer, Super Bowl.
A little distracted.
A little cloudy, a little hazy.
That's fair. What were you sipping on for the game? I'm trying to remember what the heck I had. I didn't have beer. I don't even remember. Did you have anything delicious?
Me? Like the wine behind me? No, I did not. I was token, probably. Most likely.
That gigantic wine glass behind you. What about you, Stephanie?
I was very proud of myself. I was drinking Coca-Cola. And so I was just making food with my mom, and I enjoyed the food more than anything, more than the game. That's just a good time to have some like yummy apps.
Yeah, and I didn't really feel like going into like a big Super Bowl party or going out to a restaurant or a bar. I just sat and I watched it quietly, and I was tweeting and sending all the stuff out on the Unhappy Hour on Twitter. You guys should follow that. Yeah, and in the Facebook groups for the Unhappy Hour, just talking about the big plays and some of the decisions made and some of the questionable calls, of course. But yeah, I mean, it was all right. It was all right. I mean, yes, Blake, I'll agree with you as well, saying that the lack of blatant satanic imagery, that was kind of a win. Although, I mean, she was dressed like a giant lobster, and then you read and people are like, no, she's not really pregnant. It was symbolic of the incoming Antichrist. I'm like, you're kind of stretching pretty far. I mean, she had that mean face on where she was like going like this in a couple of shots, but like, I don't know. It wasn't as bad as some of the other ones. So I'll chalk that up as a win, I suppose. But anyway,
Sam Stein one. Yeah.
How about we talk about the real news of the day now, shall we, Blake? You have a stinger to kind of roll it in, right?
Ooh.
Roll that beautiful bean footage, Blake.
Okay. They were good. They were just cheesy Valentine stuff. All right.
I like it.
Well.
Perfect. Well,
what is?
So, agree or disagree, the Ohio train chemical spill disaster was intentional. Oh, good Lord. If I mean, we're still unpacking information here, but Stephanie, what are you seeing on this one? What's your takeaway with this in the heart of Ohio, Pennsylvania?
I think maybe perhaps it was just a coincidence, but at the same time, we don't know too much about it. But I was listening to Scott Adams this morning, and he was there talking about coincidences and like how it happens more than you think. And you have this equation, then you just add a crazy person to it, and it totally changed everything. So I think until I get more information, or if you guys know something I don't know, I think it's just a coincidence at the moment.
Blake, what say you?
I'm going to say I think it might have been intentional. I think there's something really odd going on. I don't know, Brian, it might be our last Super Bowl in the area, as we got to get out of the contagion, out of the Ohio River Valley. Yeah, the Ohio River, they saying, is like poison. Like that was like a really strategic spot where that spill happened, and it could be some of the conspiracy people around, making it more than what it is. But it could conceivably cause tremendous amount of damage over the next 10, 20 years. They're saying it's like the Chernobyl of Ohio and whatnot. And I'm seeing some major problems. And that Ohio River if that is contaminated at the top there, and it's the way it's flowing down, it goes right through Louisville, where you're at, Brian, and it leaks into Tennessee and a bunch of different trails, tributaries, whatever they may call it. But it could be catastrophic. And the people in that area, they got pets dying, livestock dying. You're probably going to see people dying, and you see cancer spiking. Big ecological disaster in America. So it could be very devastating. And they took a week, over 10 days almost, before they even wanted to say that something was happening and to warn people. And journalists, it's getting arrested trying to report on it. It seems like there was a big cover-up, and Mayor Pete's not helping himself. But no,
I mean, we've had transportation problems at the airports. We've had shipping container cargo issues at our ports. We've had many train derailments and toxic releases. At what point is Pete Buttigieg going to be forcibly removed and or thrown in jail for incompetence, dereliction of duty? I mean, you got one job, Mayor Pete. I don't know what his qualifications ever were to be in charge of transportation, by the way. So this is a real crony type hire. And it's proving to be really important that you put people in office that are going to put competent people in these positions. For the love of God, with Mayor Pete, but this is kind of, I don't know how. Here's a bit of an update, if you will. So it was 100 cars, Norfolk Southern freight train. They just came out and they said there were 4 more chemicals, not just the ones they announced before. There's additional. So vented and burned carcinogenic chemicals. So the EPA is out there saying, as of a day and a half ago, it hadn't detected any levels of concern. That's got to be complete bullshit. That's got to be complete. I don't buy that for a second. They're saying they're continuing to monitor the air throughout East Palestine and inside at least 210 homes. The EPA says they're investigating soil and surface water contamination near the crash site and collected spilled material in a nearby stream. It said Norfolk Southern had installed a dam and a water bypass system in the stream to prevent contamination of downstream waters, though it did not say when they were installed. Okay, well, that's a pretty important question in the who, what, where, when, why. When was it installed? In a letter sent to the company on Feb 10, the EPA said substances released during the incident were observed and detected in samples in all these places, and observed entering storm drains. The ABC affiliate WWS, I was on that affiliate one time for a football game, estimating the crash on February 8th resulted in the deaths of 3,500 fish across 7.5 miles of streams, and at least 4 class action suits have been filed over the crash. So it's not just vinyl chloride, which is a colorless but hazardous gas made producing PVC, plastic, and vinyl products. And I put this out probably on our Instagram. Check our reels on the New American Media Instagram, but today, and I think on Twitter as well, at American_media_. But I think there's 4 more chemicals that were in additional cars that were burned up along with this. So it's not just these 2 that are really bad. There's other really bad ones. So anyway, a known human carcinogen, blah 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 blah. I don't know. I don't know what to make of all this, except I'm not really buying the story. How can we buy the story? I mean, we're lied to on a daily basis by everybody, from the local to the upper levels.
No.
Where can we run to at this point? I mean, there were, Blake and I used to live in Los Angeles. I don't know if you knew that, Stephanie. Blake and I were roommates back in the day. Go figure. Go figure. Briefly, and then Vegas. But like, there were train derailments now in Texas. There was another new one in Texas that just happened yesterday, I believe. There's another one. I
think South Carolina.
South Carolina. It sure seems like
I've heard as many as 6. Yeah.
It seems like the infrastructure for our transportation and the railways, we're having ecological disasters. Our power grid is being attacked. I mean, this seems very intentional, Stephanie. I mean, when you start looking at all of these, this one might just be accidental, sure. But when we start looking at the totality of all the things that are kind of failing across the country, I mean, do you think it would be a far leap of logic to kind of start putting this together and go, look, if the United States is blowing up pipelines in Russia, isn't it at least possible there could be some retaliation happening? I mean, we have unidentified things flying through our skies. We have pipelines explode. We have trains falling off the tracks, burning chemical shitstorms. I don't know. I mean, what say you?
Let me share this one tweet from Meghan McCain. And me personally, I'm not a big fan of Meghan McCain, but she does have a really great point here. She tweeted earlier today, it says, the environmental disaster that is happening in Palestine, Ohio is being described as worse than the Chernobyl from a train derailment, letting out toxic chemicals for an entire city and water supply. Again, does the White House or Transportation SEC, who loves a camera, have anything to say? And she's like just really talking shit about the whole government. She's like, this is the United States of America, and this type of chemical like containment is going on. Like, that's not cool, that's shouldn't be going on here in America.
Yeah, and in the comments here, they're saying Keith is in the chat room. What's up, Keith? He's saying that Governor Mike DeWine is having a press conference about this right now. And I did click on that earlier. I don't feel like listening to a politician talk for 20 minutes in a row. We'll get the highlights later. But so there's a press conference. Keith saying this sounds like the beginnings of the Chernobyl disaster. I mean, you don't know how long this is going to stretch out, how far in proximity and how far in timeline that this is going to be causing problems. They're already showing pictures of dead chickens, dead goats, dead fish, the dead pets, dead horse. Like you're seeing it, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, everything's okay. Oh, everything's okay." Just like say, what are they saying then? The EPA is saying that this intentional chemical blast is safe and effective. Is that what they like to tell us, that these obviously bad, risky things are safe and effective?
Well, after 9/11, they said the air was safe to breathe, and that did not turn out to be the case at all. And all those responders have severe health problems to this day. So that's been a horrible tragedy as well. So, yeah, right. They're freaking out about it.
Blake, Keith is adding here additionally, he says that the train derailments are all in red states. All in red states. Is this a coincidence?
I don't know, but I think I'm going to do a quick screen share. I got a few to run through real quick.
But can you do the screen share without doing the inception? Yes, you did it.
No,
you did it.
If I go to multiple tabs, because I got 3 multiple tabs, so I don't want to do individually. I don't know if it'll work that way. So I just, anyway, I'm just doing what's easier for now. And yeah, I think there's about 6 derailments, like all in a couple of days. That seems quite a coincidence. I'm not buying it. There's been some terrific reporting here by Anacoa the Great. and showing some of these different problems and all the videos that people may or may not have seen already. And I do want to point out one other thing. Yeah, it's just more train derailments. This is a girl from Palestine, Ohio, who says it's way worse than people are saying. We had this movie. I actually stayed up late last night watching White Noise on Netflix. They just released it, and guess what? It had to do with part of it wasn't the main plot, but it was a big part of the story that there is a train accident in, guess where? Ohio, that causes problems and people need to evacuate. But I do want to point out this other tweet by the architect says, ask yourself again, was it just a coincidence that a train carrying lethal chemicals happened to derail, then was intentionally blown up over a fresh water supply for 5 million people? And in recent months, we've seen the attacks on the food production, farming, agriculture, power grid, and now a major water source. So it seems like I am going to go, whether it's popular or not, and saying that this is intentional and that this is. Did you guys ever play the video game Sim City back in the day?
Yeah,
Hugely
definitely.
popular game.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it up. Now I want to start a new village right now. I haven't played that in too long. I got the CD-ROM. I'm gonna put that in and start. I'll start New Palestine. I'll start a new country.
There you go. You know how you play a city, you build it up so much, and then you get bored with it, and then you can create your own disasters. So sometimes they happen on their
Tornadoes come
own.
rolling
You
through.
get a fire, you get an earthquake, but it almost feels like we've got this developed society, and now the elites or whatever are just like, let's start burning it. Let's blow up the Nord Stream pipelines. Let's get everybody at each other's throat. Let's trash the world's food supply. Start crashing trains. And who knows? Wait till wildfire season. So I'm not buying it. There's something very wrong. The food supply. It feels like there's something
that's
happening.
A good point. That the part that I kind of glossed over with all the issues we've been having, because it seems like we're having nonstop problems in this country, almost as if it's all intentional. But yeah, all of the food production, all of the egg facilities, it's happening very consistently. If I were a bad guy and I wanted to wreck this nation, you poison all of it. You poison the water, you poison the air, you stop the eggs from the chickens from being able to lay eggs. Like that whole story about change the feed, and all of a sudden your chickens can have production again. It seems very intentional. And then you have hundreds of thousands of birds just exploding in flames at various food processing facilities across the country. It's just all so coincident. I don't remember these stories being this consistent over the years, and people taking pot shots at the electrical grids, knocking power out, going for substations and whatnot. It's like, yeah, it's almost like if you let an invading army of a couple million people come through the southern border unannounced, I don't know. I don't think you'd have to pay them too much to do a few bad things to, make it all worth your while. These are the mercenaries you might have been waiting for, folks.
It's possible. Yeah, we don't know.
Well, let's
and it
pause
doesn't happen on Bill Gates' farmland. He's got a ton of land, but hey, it's surprise, surprise. So maybe Bill Gates will be our nation's savior because he'll have all the best farmland.
Yeah, they're releasing the Epstein documents now, right? Like the Epstein list is about to come out with Clinton and Gates, right?
Yeah, actually, there's one more tweet I got to get to on that one.
Yeah, let's see our savior talk his way out of that one. Why did Melinda leave you, buddy? What were you doing down there with that creepo? What were you doing?
I think Melinda Gates has already said, quite a, saying a lot, with that one interview where she said, I did not like Jeffrey. He was a horrible just for a first impression, say he's a horrible person. Why was he a horrible person? But she didn't go into detail. But she was really emphasizing on that, hey, that really affected our relationship.
And also remember, President Trump kicked his ass out of his country club and said, you are not welcome here anymore, you creep. He figured out really quick what Epstein was up to, and he was one of the few elites that they almost caught in the spider web, and he's like, you can go to hell, pal.
And people don't talk about that much. They all talk about him being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but he's the one who stuck it to the guy and said, F you, don't come back here again.
Absolutely. Blake, you had a tweet you were trying to find, or is that for another segment?
Yeah, it'll carry us into another segment if you want to, since it does.
Yeah, because I could roll into one of two topics. It could either be
There you go. This is from Gonzalo Lira, someone one of my favorite journalists to follow, who's out in Ukraine, saying the balloons UFOs are being used to distract you from the Ohio chemical train derailment, catastrophic military losses in Ukraine. Seymour Hersh article confirming the U.S. destroyed the Nord Stream pipelines and the Epstein client list to be released. Is this distraction working on you? Well,
Stephanie. Do you feel distracted enough, or are you kind of laser focused on the real issues of the day? Are you wrapped up in the shiny balloons, all these fake little stories, these
I think
distractions?
the
there's a
pink
lot of
cupcakes.
distractions
Yeah.
going on. I mean, one thing that I saw you tweet, Brian, which we didn't go over when we talked about the Super Bowl, was that one YouTube commercial. And the beginning, I'm like, the fuck? And you see this big balloon, and it looks just like, and I thought that was weird. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And with everything going on, it's just like, I don't know. There's wars, all these proxy wars going on. It's like, have you guys ever played the video game Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm a big Metal Gear Solid fan, and he would just, the whole game is about all these proxy wars, and like Solid Snake, he's the one actually fighting the real war, what's going on. So I think it's a lot of distraction. I think there's a lot of people getting paid, with these egg companies being destroyed, with eggs so high, maybe they have a influx in price where since it's so high, and then it mysteriously burns down, then they probably get a ton of insurance money because the eggs are so high, and they probably have another plant, so then they're driving the price up because now there's like less eggs, so people are getting paid, people are taking advantage of the situation.
And that U2 ad was super creepy, and it's like, well,
It was
is it
creepy.
predictive
Yeah.
programming? Well, it's not predictive programming because we've seen these heart-shaped balloons, Blake. Well, we'll try to keep the theme of Nirvana, Kurt Cobain going, but this heart shape, these white balloons going through the skies, and yeah, the YouTube commercial was definitely, it was this big ball, like it was like a
Yeah.
cylindrical, circular UFO type thing, and there's this creepy little baby that goes Achtung, and that means danger, Achtung baby. That I think it's like a re-release of their album or
Yep.
something. But yeah, I stumbled across something that said on the list of the Epstein list, somebody said that they saw the name Paul David Hewson, and I don't know if you recognize that person, but that's Bono. And there were some pictures attached with it, and the pictures were suggestively concerning. But yeah, I mean, I try to be careful casting aspersions on people without having actual cause. I try to be careful, but with all this story, when nobody's given you the information, all you can do is infer. All you can do is try to connect the dots. All you can do is try to trust instinct and intuition and not go too far off the deep edge while doing so. But in the absence of information, these are the power vacuums. These are the information vacuums that allow crazy shit to start happening. Which is why for the most part, a pretty big fan of just get the information out, the who, what, where, when, why, let it go. I mean, I guess they have their reasons, but the deep state, they had no reason to. Their reason to take out President Trump and back Joe Biden while he's overthrowing Ukraine and money laundering with his sons. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a reason. I can't accept that that's just going to be okay anymore. And I don't know why any of the country would, because it's not like they're equal opportunity offenders here. They're in the bag for the Democratic Party, who is really steering us off a cliff. I mean, we can agree with some of the social issues that are on more the libertarian side of things, but what is that party really producing for anybody? And when the deep state is really involved with the Epstein, I mean, what was it? It was blackmail. It was for power and control. So if you could get a few of these dignitaries, these leaders, these musicians and actors, and you get them hooked, well, then they're an asset. Well, you know what? How creepy do you have to be in the deep state to be messing with underage kids and being rapists and like, I don't know. I'm just we've crossed the line a long time ago. There is no trying to tiptoe through these stories and using code words, and I'm just gonna I better be quiet. It's like, the demons are everywhere. If there's ever a chance to talk, let it rip now, because
Hmm.
the next thing that happens, the grid might go down, and it will at some point. I don't know how long, but I'm going to use the internet as long as I have it. Because if I were a bad guy, I would shut this stuff down in a heartbeat. Because the internet's the only thing that's keeping them honest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Grifter politicians like Hillary, they used to travel on their trains. Speaking of trains, they'd go all through the country in their whistle stop tours, and they'd blah, 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 and, blah, blah, and they'd pander to everybody. Hillary would get out her southern accent, and I have hot sauce in my purse. And then she'd go to the next place and try to act like them. But like when everything's recorded, you can easily identify the liars and the pandering people. So I don't know. I don't know. Blake, you changed the crawl here to Ohio train chemical spill. Are we back talking about UFOs, or are we talking back to this one? Because while we're talking distractions, we could bounce over to the rancher one, because I almost went to that segue, because I mentioned the foreign invading force that, God, I would if I wanted to destroy America, I'd bring in a few 100,000 people that didn't like the people here. It'd be super easy. Get him some free
Perhaps.
phones and a couple of bucks. Easy. So Soros, he's got money for that, right?
Mm.
So then you got these people
Definitely.
on the border towns, and they're getting overrun, and the crime is spiking through the roof, and the resources are running out, and it's causing a massive strain everywhere. Then you have a rancher that gets involved in an altercation. Here, let me do this one.
I don't know if
Let's
I've
jump to
got.
that story, shall we?
Whoops. Yeah. Uh-oh. You lose Stephanie. It's all right.
Oh,
Arizona.
there's a button here. There's a button here where you can disable your camera and disable your microphone.
Okay.
And I use it because I've been battling a bit of a upper respiratory something for about a week. So I felt like,
Oh, what if that has anything to do with the train spill, Brian? The big black cloud. And in fact, you should
could have.
see. You should definitely see this movie, Brian. It's very weird. It just came out in December, but what a hell of a coincidence! White Noise. That's with Adam Driver, and it's strange, very psychedelic, strange. I don't know how exactly to describe it, but how bizarre that they just happen to have a big spill in Ohio. Weird chemicals. I don't think they really explained what they were, and they all have to evacuate. They start getting sick, and people. I don't want to give away all the spoilers, but I don't trust the timing on that. So I don't know, and I don't trust the administration running it, because Pete Buttigieg finally gets his chance. Brian, is that even? See, that's one of the reasons I don't like doing that particular screen share, is because I can't get to the next tab, which is well. Let me see how to do this.
Oh, to navigate over to the next tab? Well, you
Yeah, I
just got
can't
to
do the
click it
next
twice
tab.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
gotta go
no,
back,
the
redo it.
Inception tab.
Is it not working now? Okay, there we
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
See,
it's
go
working.
back.
But it's the
Are you
Inception
afraid
tab,
of the
the tab
movie
with the inception.
Inception? Does that bother you? The Pete Buttigieg, and the doesn't mention the Ohio derailment, but he did talk about the too many white people working in construction, which of course was dead on with the Babylon Bee.
I
Investigate
can't
the
with the
chemical spill for signs
self-loathing.
of racism.
I can't. I fucking
Wow.
dude. I can't tolerate any of these people with this stuff anymore. The number
But
one threat
Brian,
to America is white
right.
nationalism or something. It's like what reality? Like it's an agenda. It's coming down from the Obama headquarters. Here, now read this. You want me to read that? Yeah, we got on you, Joe. We have the Ashley Biden diary. Read the damn script. Yes, white nationalism is the largest threat in the country. Okay, Joe. Okay. I mean, like these scripts that they're reading are just atrocious. I mean, our infrastructure
Well, they
is
can't
falling
take the
apart, and he's
blame,
talking.
Brian. They got to blame it on Trump or white people somehow. It's usually how it goes. White nationalists or something.
Well, Stephanie,
It's
you're
the
out of the
easy
mix,
way.
right? You won't get wrapped up in all of that. You're not a dude, and I think you said you're not white, or maybe partial. I don't know what you said. Something like.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'm Mexican, like more
yep.
Mexican than a lot of Mexicans in California. My mom came from Mexico, outside Mexico City, and when I see, like, my dad was a construction worker, and I mean, there's definitely not too many white people. I mean, the problem is having somebody willing to do the hard work to do that type of job. I mean, the oil companies, like in the Midwest, they could be pumping out more oil, but one, a lot of people don't want to be doing that type of hard work. People don't want to do hard work in general, no matter on your race.
That's true. Yeah, well, so you got that going for you. So you're not going to get blamed for all of society's ills by idiots like Pete Buttigieg when we have a
Yeah.
literal American Chernobyl happening over here. And he's talking about, what was his deal? He said that there's too many white people
White
doing
people
what,
in
Blake?
construction. Yeah, he's got to
Of
find some way to
course.
twist it.
I mean, in
Yeah,
Arizona,
that's what we all need to hear from him.
everybody that, like, my dad worked with, I mean, they were pretty much, I mean, he was like the only white guy, and then everybody else was a Mexican, and that's typically how it goes.
You had El Jefe over here,
Yeah.
and then you had the workers over yeah. Aya. Ayi, aya. Yeah, I mean, I lived in Los Angeles for a lot of years, and that's kind of all I ever saw. I
Yeah.
did not see whatever Pete seems to be pandering about. God, it's just why? Why are we wasting our energy on this crap? It's so toxic. It's so it bothers me, Blake. It bothers
I
me
understand.
more.
They keep getting away with that petty stuff. Amazing.
So he
But,
did a press
here we
release
are.
and he didn't even talk about Ohio, or he did briefly.
Well,
He
at
didn't even mention it.
first, yeah, he like barely mentioned it, and then was like, yeah, it was construction. He had to get something in there. There's talking points from the administration. Pass the blame, that kind of thing. And it's weird because, like, can you name any other transportation secretaries of the last 200 years?
Ooh,
I don't know how long transportation secretaries have been around, but
was
for every
Bill
administration-
Richardson one of them? Bill
who?
Richardson out in New Mexico.
I don't know. I'm just saying because I don't think anybody would know it. But Pete has been, famous for his basically incompetence running this with all the supply chain issues and all the other problems we have in this country. And now the Ohio Chernobyl disaster. Brian, I don't know if you're having issues from the fallout there, but you might want to consider getting out of there. I don't. Time to evacuate, test the water, test the air. I don't know. If they got livestock dying up there, you're not terribly far, and you're downriver from that. So,
By the way, I did put. Yeah, I know. I was just having the conversation today, wondering if I needed importing water, if I want to get away from what I have right now, because I'm not really trusting. Sorry, Bill Richardson was the transportation secretary.
good call. All right.
Yeah, and he's also on the Epstein lists, allegedly. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Very interesting that he could be as part of that. But yeah,
So,
man.
Brian, do we want to hit the UFO hysteria before we head to the rancher story? I guess one of the
yeah,
other.
I tried to, but yeah, let's
Okay.
do another stinger, shall we?
Oh yeah, I got one more.
Sting it away, Blake.
One more new one. Okay. Okay. Agree to disagree.
Are those not Mike and Ike's? Good and Plenty. Were those Good and Plenty's? What were those? Little white and red? Were those fentanyl pills?
Yeah, they're fentanyl. Good call.
The switch.
Yeah.
Certainly allowing the
Romantic.
transport of yeah. How romantic.
Good
So
call.
what do we make of these UFOs? All of us now and I had the same thought, and then I saw Joe Rogan tweeted the same thing. Corinne Jean Pierre, I can't do a good job at my job, whatever her name is. She was out there saying blah blah blah, and I just want to say these things out there that you've seen, they're definitely not UFOs. And it reminded me of the Wag. Have you seen Wag the Dog, Stephanie Blake? Wag the
No.
Dog.
I have, yeah.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Blake,
I
yes.
have, yes.
Stephanie, put it on your watch list. It's one of the best
Okay.
movies ever made, and it in that they fake a war. It was loosely based on Bill Clinton, the Firefly Girls. It was something where Bill Clinton was accused of sexual misconduct, and so they started a war to distract them, to divert the attention away from what was going on personally. And they start a war with Albania. I'm like, who Albania? I don't even know who's Albanian. Jim Belushi's Albanian. He's Albanian. I don't know. I guess so. And so I put him out there, and at a press conference, I go, and to reiterate, there is no B-2 bomber. There is no B-2 bomber. Well, then obviously there is a B-2 bomber. You just brought it up. You're telling us about it. It's like when Joe Biden's like, "Oh, that pipeline will not be built. That pipeline will not Keystone. What is it? What's the one we
Nord
blew
Stream.
up in Russia? Nord Stream. I'm
Nord Stream.
confusing them. He shut one down and he blew up the other. This guy is the biggest ecological terrorist we've seen maybe in history, and he's getting a free pass, by the way. But yeah, when Karine Jean-Pierre came out and said it's not a UFO, I went, well, shit. Then it's got to be a UFO. That's what you're going for? So that's what the story is going to be. So if whatever they're saying, you got to think it's the opposite because they're just pathological liars. They couldn't tell the truth to save their lives. I feel so. I mean,
Well, she'll be out
like,
of a
what?
job if she tells the truth. So that's kind of her job is to cover up.
So like, what is the recap? Do you have a story pulled up for the recap of the UFOs here? Because I mean, we've all been seeing different parts of it. Things are going across our country unmolested. Then we shoot it down once it's soaked up all of the pertinent data from all of our missile silos and nuclear reactor facilities and all of the secret government uh, military installations across the country, and then another one gets shot down in Canada, and then people are seeing green waves of lasers coming down in Hawaii, and it's just like all over for 2 weeks. That's all we've been seeing is UFOs and stuff happening. It sure seems like Russia could be striking back. You know, like if I were observing this from the outside, it's like, well, yeah, maybe they're striking back.
It could be. And speaking of Russia's citizen now from the secret government before, Edward Snowden. And there's your girl, the press secretary there, KG, was it KGP? JP? I don't even know. But she's busy covering spinning, as usually the administration does. And it could be a distraction from all the things going on, as I pulled up in that clip earlier. So this could be the latest thing. Yeah, the UFO hysteria. I mean, so she's saying she doesn't know what it's about, but I mean that's what it is. It's an unidentified flying object. So if she says no, so it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So of course, but that's usually the administration's thing is just to gaslight people. So yeah, it doesn't make it. Yeah, they got a lot of problems going on, and yeah, they would like to wag the dog, if you will. Oh yeah, we got a dog in the background at Stephanie's house. Yes, so it's continuous distractions. So they shot down these UFOs, and I guess they can't find anything left from them. So there's nothing to salvage. So these like delicate high flying balloons, I guess they've had to adjust their equipment because they're not really used to searching for high flying, slow moving objects. And so I don't know if they've set these up to blow a couple up to make it look like they're doing something, or hey, look over here. But then it's like, oh, okay, well, if it's like a spy satellite or spy balloon, then why can't they just shoot it down with a couple of bullets? Why do they got to use some $450,000 Sidewinder missile that obliterates the whole thing and there's nothing left to salvage? So very strange turn of events with that story.
Stephanie, what say you on that?
Well, the balloon that they shot down, I actually found out the company that designed it and owns it. It's from an aerospace defense company. It's called Aerostar. And if you go to their website, you see all those things they're talking about, the size and all that. It's a company that they provided it. So I would say like maybe it was a UFO, but I highly doubt it. But then again, it's like, how come you don't see more pictures about it? You're not finding anything. Like when Roswell and all these other crashes happened, you had all these witness testimony. I'm not hearing much witness testimony on this. So I would say it's probably just a balloon done by Aerostar, and these are just like distractions. But if there was a time UFOs were going to intervene, what we always think of, it's like we just recently got Chat GPT. We're right there at the cusp, right before AI. And if they were going to intervene and help us, it's probably before AI gets conscious. So it's just kind of weird. We're right now testing Chat GPT, and this is going on. So, I mean, I believe in those scenarios, like the one in Zimbabwe, Africa. It was a UFO that landed, and all these like children saw it, and they couldn't deny because every single kid drew the same exact thing, and how these like creatures came out and walked up to the school in broad daylight. And that was even, I think, like in the 60s or 70s or something like that. So, I mean, who knows? I'm just waiting on more information, but according so far, it was done by Aerostar. That was their balloon.
Yeah, and I was also hearing that it didn't have Chinese writing on it; it had American
Mm-hmm.
writing on it.
Mm-hmm.
I was also
Which is,
hearing
yeah.
that it was rigged with explosives to detonate. Like a burn notice, if you will. What was that? Inspector Gadget, was that the one where they would get the top secret thing, and this message will self destruct in 5 seconds or something like that?
That or
I don't know if
Mission
you remember it.
Impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, Mission Impossible too. Um, well, Keith is also asking here in the chat room. By the way, leave your comments in the chat, please. He's asking, why is it that they claim they can recover the errant missile that missed the object, but they say they may never be able to recover the object they shot down? Thank you. That's right. I forgot we could do that. How do you do that? You
Yeah.
tap. Let's go to
You
chat.
go to the
Yeah, there we go.
chat thing on top, and then
Yeah, I was living in captions, but yeah. Look, I don't know how much longer we have. Like, these people are desperate. They're stupid. They're corrupt. They're so caught up in the spider web of. I mean, how many crosses and double crosses and violations of your oath of office need to happen before you're so completely rudderless? You have no controlling steering mechanism. You Stephanie, you said you're taking flight classes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Talking about balloons being adrift. Imagine you lost the propulsion system, so you had no hot air to kind of guide you in directions. You imagine a boat that doesn't have the rudder to aim you, or the sails. You're just kind of floating wherever it takes you. And I just feel that was a bit of an analogy that got a little overboard, I suppose. But these corrupt people, when they play this game for too long, at some point, I'm assuming they don't even know who they are. They're not even moored to any morals or ethics or sense of responsibility to anybody other than covering up the latest bullcrap they got themselves involved with. And so I wonder who out there is actually looking out for us. I don't think anybody is. I really don't think anybody is. And you used to think, well, at least the media's on top of it. Well, I mean, we know the media is just a mouthpiece for the deep state. We've known this. NBC, it is the CIA. Like, it's literally the same people. The CNN, they're just putting people. All right, now wear this suit. But here's your job today. You're not going to be working the desk anymore. You're going to be working that desk. It's all bullshit. And I feel like we're adults. I feel like we could handle the truth. I don't think we want any extra wars. And I know the military-industrial complex doesn't love that. There's always things to blow up. There's always can't we find a better reason to get involved in global conflicts than just, I don't know, we're trying to cover up Hunter's malfeasance and trying to continue on with the overthrow of Ukraine from 2014 with Biden and Obama? Like, I don't know. I don't like any of this. I don't see that. I don't trust the EPA in Ohio. I don't trust Mike DeWine talking about it, the governor over there. All of these stories, from UFOs to chemical spills, this is part of the reason why I backed away from the news a little bit, because it is frustrating. It does it sucks the life force away. It's painful when you give a shit, and it seems like nobody else does. But here in this room, obviously we have at least 3 people that are trying to discuss it and figure it out. We're all super sleuths, I suppose. That's a tough word to say. Super sleuth. Try it. Say super sleuth. Go.
Super sleuth. Super sleuths.
Go.
Super sleuths.
It's just a weird word, right?
It is.
Sleuths. It's hard to finish and get on to the next word. But yeah, these UFOs are fascinating. Let's have you seen a UFO? I have. Stephanie, have you seen a UFO?
I think I did, but it's just, I'm not 100% sure. I kind of
Mhm.
got away from the thing. Like, it can't just be just lights in the sky. But one time I was out in the Mojave County desert, middle of the night. One thing that was interesting, I was driving and on this very windy road, and and something told me like, hey, look out, look out, look out. And I never had that feeling before. And then I saw these three red lights. I pulled the side of the road, and I saw these three red lights, and they appear, disappear, and then they went away. And in the Mojave County out there, like Wikia, I found these like maps of these underground bases of tunnels that go from like Las Vegas to Wikiup and all this stuff. So the Mojave Desert, I mean, that's where Area 51 and all this hot activity goes. So I think that was something. I've seen other things, but that's up in the air. But there's definitely something there. I think it's probably they live underwater and they've been here all along because we never been to the deepest part of the ocean. And it's probably more realistic than them going through time and space, because that's really high end, really hard to do. It's easier to just pop out of water.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
actually saw a
Or
video about.
Antarctica. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a video about that as well, where they were doing like GPR, ground penetrating radar stuff, and they're showing entire cities underneath the water, vehicles going underneath the water, and I, I don't know how much I believe this video I saw on Instagram while I was scrolling, but it's interesting that why wouldn't it be there? Of course it would. That's one of the safest places to be. Let everything go on up there and let the ant people stay underneath. There's plenty of things to tunnel around. Keith is saying he's seen the orange orb phenomenon on two separate occasions. Blake, you were out in the Las Vegas desert for a while. Did
Yep.
you ever have a unidentified flying object experience of your own while you were super sleuthing?
No, definitely not. Not in Vegas. There's way too much artificial light, too much fluorescent neon
Okay, that's
lights
a good
everywhere.
point.
I would never be able to see anything. It wasn't until I went to Arizona and for a while and got off grid for a while before I was like, oh my God, there's stars. I'm not used to seeing that in Vegas. So that's all good.
But not a UFO per se, even in Arizona or even in Minneapolis, Minnesota when you're up there.
It's perhaps I've been through Sedona multiple times. Maybe I did, but nothing like where I was like, "Whoa, that's something stands out." No, but there are like UFO tours where you could go to Sedona and they, get you out in the jeeps out in the trails way
Mm-hmm.
out there, and people do see them allegedly. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's
It's
supposedly
definitely
some
no.
underground bases out in Sedona, and which I believe there's something to it because my grandma's from that area and she never went on the internet, doesn't know how to use computer. And she was very close with the people in Sedona. And this was back like in the 1950s, that it was like common knowledge for locals there that these military like vehicles would go into a mountain and just disappear all the time. And I have some friends, they're like tour guides there at Talakepaki. They're like one of the best in Sedona. And they're able to like show things like every night. And if you don't see anything, it's your money back guarantee. He never asked,
Ooh.
nobody has ever returned their money back. So there's something out
Well,
there.
or maybe they just have a drone operator and they have something
Yeah.
go up over the hill and it's like, oh, there it is
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Whoa, there it is.
Or do it like when the Starlink satellites, are going on and be
Passing
like,
through.
oh, let's do
Oh,
a watch during that time. How would you know
Hmm.
it's a satellite if you're not into
Exactly.
that's
space?
right. There's only a few hundred miles away. Yeah,
Yeah.
good call.
Yeah, I saw something unidentified, and we're not talking about the little green men per se. It's just something that
Hmm.
was unusual up in the skies.
Yeah.
And my God, when I grew up, I remember I'm old enough to remember when clouds looked like clouds. I don't know what all these lines and streaky checkerboard things in the skies are anymore, but that's not what I remember growing with up in the skies. I've
Mm.
always looked at the skies. It's never been that they are messing around all sorts of ways up there. But yeah, I was in Taos, New Mexico, building off the grid homes called Earthships. And I was outside and over the Sangre de Cristos mountains. That means blood of Christ. There was a sound. I heard it before I saw it, and it was a circle. I've seen all sorts of craft, but this was just a ball of light, and it came over the mountain range. I mean, it was motoring, it got to me hardly before I had time to recognize what was going on, and that thing shot straight past that thing. It was a big, glowing ball of light. I've never seen anything in the sky move that fast, and this was tons of range out in Taos. I mean, you're looking for hundreds of miles. Like there's nothing. It's just open space. And this thing, I don't know. That was jarring. I don't know what it was, but it was interesting. It was interesting.
Yeah.
There's a million things we probably have no idea what's going on up there. But yeah, what did Wanda say? She said back to the UFO. She said she finds it hard to believe that humans and human technology could shoot down an extraterrestrial. She thinks an ET would just vaporize a fighter jet by just thinking about it. I
They
mean,
could be hundreds or thousands, millions of years ahead of us technologically, so you wouldn't think that they would have problems with our antique fighter jets. Never know. Probably not. So, but yeah, I think it's a distraction. But hey, we got to do kind of a lightning round. I think we got 3 more topics, and I've only got about 10, maybe 15 minutes left, and I got to run. Okay. So,
I
should
play on my
we-
side. You can see it.
Oh,
Froze.
I was trying to get ahead there. Try
Oh.
one more time.
Oh, did we both play it? Go ahead, try it again.
Must have. There we go. No, that's good. I just wanted to get the title up there. Arizona rancher shooting is unjustified. So we have an Arizona rancher. Yeah. I don't know if I should just pull this up. We'll just kind of check the headline for the most part.
Pull it up because, I mean, nobody is protecting the southern border. It's inevitable that this is going to happen. Nobody's protecting the women in the locker rooms. Like there are going to be guys in there that are going to upset people. There are going to be fights and or worse as they protect their kids. Nobody's protecting the southern border. You're going to have altercations because nobody's doing their damn job. And the job is just show your ID at the front door and get a plan together. And this is just, no, we're just bringing hundreds of thousands of people through. I heard the cartels, the Sinaloa cartel went from 500 million in human trafficking last year. They're up to $13 billion in human trafficking now. I mean, I'm not surprised in the least to see a rancher now shooting. But what are the details of this story? Do you have the 5 W's, Blake, on this one?
Not entirely. It's just an old rancher with his wife. He's manning the place, having lunch or whatever. Starts seeing some people. Allegedly, maybe a couple guys are like AK-47s or something like that. You're kind of out on an island there to protect yourself and your ranch. I think a shot was fired at one of his old horses, and the horse ran. Like he was kind of like felt threatened. And at 73 years old, yeah, you're gonna get out there to defend your property, and you're not gonna necessarily call the cop. He did call for border services or what have you. And they did show up, but yeah,
and they showed up to arrest him instead of the people that were firing at his property.
I think they've investigated, but that's just part of their process. And they got this wide open border; they're not enforcing it. And if you get some, I don't know if they're cartel people or smugglers, what have you, coyotes, what's going on. But if they're running around and with guns and they're terrorizing your neighborhood, I mean, it's like going back to 150 years ago or whatever, when there's maybe Indians running around. This is the same type of thing. People are protecting their ranch, whether you agree or disagree. But if it's his property and he's got no trespassing, and he feels under threat, then maybe he shoots somebody. Maybe not trying to, or he was trying to shoot warning shots. I don't know all the details, and without getting into the weeds here, but there's $1 million bail on it. So
he is arrested right now.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. He was arrested. Yeah.
So the moral. Oh my God! So the moral of the story. What did he do? He told on himself. So like, you're just teaching people you're not supposed to call the police, the authorities, because they're not going to help you. They're going to side with the invaders. That's wonderful. Stephanie, you're over there in the Southwest, right? Like, what do you make of a story like this?
Yes. I'm really big on the right to bear arms. Majority of wherever I go, because I live here in Arizona, we have a law where we're allowed to do open carry, and which I do oblige. Like if I feel uncomfortable, so I would do open carry with my 45 Glock all the time. And I had a couple robberies at certain properties happening earlier this year, and I had the conversation with the cops saying like, well, if anything, if can I shoot them, whatever. And even if they're trespassing, even if they're breaking the law, you can't just shoot them. They said it's not the wild wild west no more. The only way you will be fine if something is going on, they need to do something to you, like stab you, hurt you, but that's just the law. So even though it's my property, if I shoot or kill somebody like this guy in the same state as me, you're going to get arrested and you have to go through the whole process. But there's something that this guy didn't have, which probably some people don't know. So when you get, depending on your state, you could get a concealed weapons permit, right? In Arizona, you don't have to do it no more. They stopped that like 8-9 years ago. But if you can, I would get it anyway, because the minute you get a concealed weapons permit, the cops look at you differently, they respect you more. And also, when you get that, the NRA and all these right to bear arms, like groups and all this stuff, will give you money to help pay for your lawyers if you were doing something like this in self-defense. So if you don't have your concealed weapons permit, if you could get it, I would get it, because they will give you money to give for your lawyers to fight that in court, because they know that happens. Because by getting that, that's like showing like, hey, I was responsible. I really went out of my way not to shoot this guy, but I really needed to. So depending, maybe this guy, he was just like, oh, hey, I think it's like a cowboy, Clint Eastwood back in the day. Yeah, that's awesome. But, you know, you're breaking the law. Who knows? Maybe he would have known those people. That's why we have the due process. But if you could avoid that situation or get a concealed weapons permit, I would.
Good advice.
Yeah, it's so depressing. It's not hard. I've worked plenty of events. I've booked plenty of shows, and every show you got a bouncer at the door, and you check wristbands, you check IDs at the nightclub. It's pretty straightforward. I know the border is a little bigger than a nightclub entrance, but it's the same concept. Show your ID. You know, go ahead, come on in. Okay, pay your cover charge. Come on in. This rampant lawlessness. I mean, what is it? They're just trying to get future Democrats. Is the point of flooding 1.5 million, 3 million people through in the past couple of years? They just think they're all going to be Democrats. I mean, this is just we're ceding our national sovereignty. It's insane. You don't let people into your nightclub until they, you know, you gotta go through the process. You don't just sneak through the back door. I don't like this. It's this, you know. Do we know that the person that was shot, that they were an illegal alien? Like,
I'm not 100%. It's like it's kind of a lightning round. Yeah, go ahead.
I think actually he was legal because he had a voter registration card on him. So maybe, I don't know. But,
and we know that all of Arizona's elections are free and fair, and the most fair elections in the history of ever elections, of course. Okay.
Maricopa's the model for the country. Yes. All right. Another one.
Bounce to the next one, sir.
All right.
Pick your graph.
All right. How about the unvaccinated should be added to British terror watch lists?
I agree. 100%. They're the worst. They're the biggest threat to British. What would Pete Buttigieg say? The unvaccinated are the biggest threat to national security? Yes.
Yeah,
how dare they make a personal medical decision about themselves? They should be sentenced. They should be shipped off to Australia. Crikey.
Well, exactly. And we're talking about immigration here. So a counterterrorism program in the UK was originally designed to focus on stopping radical Muslim jihadists from terrorizing the country, could soon be modified to also include the unvaccinated as targets. So rather than just focus on them, they can lump in all the anti-vaxxers on top of it. That way it's not so specifically, potentially racist looking. So anyway, it's an interesting idea from this guy, Kirsten Oswald, a woman, SNP. So-called PREVENT program. This is a bit too racist because it risks marginalizing Great Britain's ever-growing Muslim communities. So if they mix in the anti-vaxxers, is it now okay? Well,
What say you,
And should
Steph?
anti-vaxxers be thrown onto a terror watch list because they could be infecting all of the good citizens that did what the government told them to? Maybe. So I don't know. I guess I'm obviously going to have to say no. But I mean, if it was like a real serious issue that was, if they had a safe, if the vaccine was perfectly safe and effective, and and it's some kind of weird hypothetical situation, but it was a very deadly disease that put people at risk. Is there a way that they could do that? It seems like terrorist watch list is a little bit much. But I know that they wanted to do this kind of stuff in like Australia, Canada. They were trying to set the precedent.
New
Even in
Zealand.
Austria, Germany, so many different countries where they wanted everybody to have this digital ID pass. And I forget what else they called it, the tracer something.
I think what they're going for is they just want to identify the people that are not going to do as they're told, right?
Mhm.
Like they're trying to
Dissidents. Yeah.
I mean, is that why so many of these white American politicians are going after white people, because they're seeing white people as the group that's not going along with the political whims of the day of the Democrat Party? I mean, the Democrat Party gets what, 90% of ethnic votes, depending on which group you go to, and they're just looking at the Republicans, going, well, that's our opposition. There's a lot of white people there, so let's marginalize them and turn them into the terrorists for once. Ha ha ha! That's your payback for 9/11, jerks. You're like, really? We're living in this future. This is the dystopian world you want? This is okay. I guess that's where we are.
They'll ignore Antifa terrorists. Yeah.
Yeah. Ignore Antifa. What say you?
On the vaccines.
Who do you think of the domestic terrorists? Or should they be on a watch list?
Like the first thing I would say is like, I shouldn't be able to disclose if I'm vaccinated or not vaccinated, thanks to HIPAA laws. I mean, you're not really allowed to talk about medical stuff. Like, let's go down to the basics. I mean, I shouldn't have my personal information, if I was unvaccinated, being shared with any other medical company or anything else. That's none of your business. So the fact that there's even like a chance of any of that, I mean, it's still these other countries, you have to be vaccinated to even visit. And then I had some like in-laws, they went to Ireland and for like some golfing thing, and when they came back, everybody got COVID. They every single one, and they all had their shots, all had their boosters. So it's just, I'm just sick and tired of this whole thing. It's just that nobody should give us the right, and we shouldn't be on no list. I mean, I think America would be pretty good overall. And also, like with the ethnic, what Brian was saying is that in Arizona, like, yes, it is like a good percentage of non-white people, all Democrats, but in Arizona and especially with Mexican people, they really relate to like the Republican Trump views. Like the way how he is, people in Mexico actually really, really like him. Like that's the one thing I think people don't really understand, how much Mexican people back up Trump, because we're a little bit more tough. We're right next door, but we have the same values.
Yeah, absolutely. The Latinos for Trump and all that. Yeah, those were big.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Voting blocks. The Democrats did not like that. They can't stand it when any kind of minority or anybody is off their Democrats' reservation, or however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to call it that way because it's just so fitting. The reservation. Bring the reservation. Don't have any reservations about mentioning reservations, as Anthony Bourdain would say.
There you go.
Okay, final story.
Another Epstein victim, potentially.
I miss Anthony Bourdain. Love
Me
that guy.
too. I was watching like nonstop videos of Anthony Bourdain, and I'm like thinking about depression and suicide, like how he had everything, and it still blows my mind how he took his own life like that. Like
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, and if you've never read Anthony's books, I mean, you could tell by watching his TV shows he has a way with words. But if you read his books, it continues in his writing. His writing is fantastic. There's good writers, and then there's writers, and he was a great writer. Just I consider him to be one of the greatest American wordsmiths ever. I mean,
Really?
I
Wow.
think the way he was able to communicate and distill all of the experiences into like really thought-provoking, funny, poignant moments. I mean, he was one of the best we've ever had. Mark Twain has nothing on Bourdain. They're both great. They're both great. So, yeah, I think he needs a few extra kudos. We'll send our love to Bourdain's. The people who loved Bourdain, send his
Yeah.
love. Send the love to those people who loved him on Valentine's Day. Blake, final story in our lightning round. You have one more story, one more.
This is literally like I have 1 minute and
Go.
then I have to run. So if you guys want to keep carrying, go for it.
Oh no, I got to
I'll
run too.
post
It's
this.
perfect. Final story.
Okay. Final story. And let me see if I can do a quick screen share on it. Damar Hamlin. Well, we started with football. We're ending with football. Damar Hamlin refusing to disclose the official reason doctors gave him for his heart stopping. And he said, quote, "That's something I want to stay away from." And I don't have all of the pictures
Unreal.
available. But if you see his left hand, they've been showing different pictures of him making public appearances, and he seems to look slightly different. And one of the dead giveaways was his left hand, which was covered in tattoos in one picture and not in the other. And when confronted about this touchy story, you would think he would have something to say, like, "Oh, I passed out, I came to, I was in the hospital," something. There'd be a great thing to tell everybody about your experience. But he didn't say anything. Is that because that's not him? I think that's what people are saying. Is if it was, you would think you wouldn't be afraid to talk about it, or you'd have some way to summarize it, unless you didn't know what you're talking about because you're just a paid actor or something. So that's a conspiracy theory. But here, I'll put that up there.
Did you see this, Stephanie? You have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, one show that Blake did on Friday Night Frolics with Brooks and New, he made a great point saying that we'll probably never really have real live sports ever again because they never want to show somebody on the field like that. And he died like 2-3 times, and there's so much money. So if he did die, the NFL and all the money they have, I mean, if he died, that would ruin the fucking NFL. And me, like, football's cool, but I'm not a big fan of all this brain damage and all that. So, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL covered that up. If he did really die, we probably wouldn't even have a Super Bowl this Sunday. They probably wouldn't even have played that. I mean, so there's a lot of money on the line.
There is a lot of money. I just, all of those questions aside, because did he really make it? What did they cover up? Tattoos, not tattoos. Doesn't look like him. Why do they show him at the Bengals game and he's covered in a hooded face thing, and you don't talk to him, and he's behind a pile of snow and it's a blizzard? It's like, why even show him if you're not going to show? It was very suspicious. Then he poses outside a picture of himself and he calls himself a clone in social media post. And but this was so weird to me. And
yeah,
he does.
Oh yeah.
Good. Now you guys have done it. Now people can grab the screen share.
Yeah,
And now they're going to make memes about you. Look, Strahan sits him down and asks him about it. That's the one question we all want to know. Okay, so what did the doctor say? He looked straight ahead. He had no. The video I watched, it was like 5-10 seconds of silence and just no facial reaction. That's something I don't want to talk about. Well, that's why you're here sitting in front of Michael Strahan talking to the world, bro. We all watched you die. We're wondering what happened. That's something I don't want to talk about. Then why'd you agree to do the interview? And then what was that weird Christ mockery jacket that he was wearing at the Super Bowl? You saw that one? That weird, it was like a goat on a cross, like for Christ, and it just freaking weird, man. This story is so weird to me. Like, answer the question. Is it because it was related to the thing? Was it related to the thing? Like, by not saying it, that's what everybody's assuming. The doctors obviously told him it was because he took the vaccine. In the absence of any other option, that's what everybody's thinking now. Congratulations. By not saying anything, you're making us all much more suspicious about it. It doesn't mean it's true. It just means in the absence of information, we're making up our own ideas. We're trying to connect our own dots. That's the point of the show. when we're being lied to, we just try to infer what we can and put the pieces together. So it's a weird
Absolutely.
freaking story, Blake. And I know you got to run. So thank you
Yep.
for joining us on
Be
today's
Bye,
continued.
Valentine's Day show, everybody.
See you later.
And,
Great to have you, Stephanie.
Bye,
Stephanie,
Blake.
thank you for
Good time.
joining as
Later.
well.
Yeah.
To be continued.
All
We
right.
shall talk again soon.
Peace.
Take care.
Sounds good. All right, guys.
Bye.
Later.